"Take these before your exam and I promise you'll pass," my friend whispered to me when he slipped me the pills, and I was desperate enough to believe him. I was failing chemistry so badly that my teacher had actually pulled me aside to ask if everything was okay at home, which was humiliating because everything was fine at home, and I was just genuinely terrible at chemistry. My parents had already threatened to take my phone and my car privileges and basically my entire social life if I didn't bring my grade up, but every time I sat down to study, the information just leaked right out of my brain like water through a strainer. Carlos had been telling me for weeks that he knew how to fix my problem, and I kept saying no because I had never touched drugs in my life and I wasn't about to start now. But when I bombed the practice exam so badly that my teacher actually sighed out loud while handing it back to me, I found Carlos at lunch and told him I was finally ready to try things his way. Carlos gave me the pills in a little plastic bag and told me to take one every morning. I stood in my bathroom that first morning, staring at the little blue pill in my palm, and my heart was racing because I knew that the second I swallowed it, I would officially be a person who takes pills to get through life. I thought about all those assemblies where they told us this was how it started, but then I thought about losing my car and my phone and my friends, and I washed it down with tap water before I could change my mind. The first day I didn't notice much of anything, and I started to think maybe Carlos had ripped me off, but by the second day, something was different. I sat down to study after dinner, and 2 hours disappeared without me even noticing because I was so locked into what I was reading. The formulas that had looked like gibberish for months suddenly made sense, and I could actually follow the logic from one step to the next. My teacher called on me in class and I answered correctly, and she actually looked surprised, which was kind of insulting but also kind of amazing. I couldn't shake the paranoia that people could tell something was different about me, but I knew I just had to make it through this test, then I could quit the pills and nobody would ever know I used them. The week before the final, I did every single practice problem in the textbook, and I couldn't believe it when I checked the answers and Elle had gotten them all right. I walked into that exam feeling like a completely different person, but I was also terrified that somehow everyone knew my secret. I finished with 20 minutes to spare, and I didn't second guess myself once. When I got the test back 2 days later, there was an A at the top, and I almost cried right there in class. Then I saw the red ink at the bottom of the page that said, "See me after class," and my heart stopped. I felt like I was going to my own funeral as I walked up to my teacher's desk after the bell rang. "I need to talk to you about your test," she said, and her voice had that cold edge that teachers get when they've already decided you're guilty. "You went from a D- to an A in 2 weeks, and I've been teaching long enough to know that doesn't happen without some kind of outside help." I felt my face getting hot, and my hands started shaking because she was right. She was completely right, and I was so tired of carrying this secret. "I have to report cheating to the principal," she continued. "So if there's something you want to tell me, now would be the time." I broke. I completely broke right there in front of her, tears streaming down my face as I confessed everything about Carlos and the pills, and how I was so desperate I didn't care what I was putting in my body. My teacher's expression shifted from suspicious to genuinely alarmed, and she asked me what exactly I had been taking. I pulled the plastic bag out of my backpack, and I handed it to her with shaking hands. She looked at the pills for a long moment, then she looked at me, and then she did something I never expected. She popped one in her mouth and chewed it up. I literally screamed and lunged forward like I could somehow stop her, but she just held up her hand and started laughing. "These are candy," she said, reaching into the bag and eating another one. "Sweet tarts or something like it. I used to eat these as a kid." I stared at her because nothing she was saying made any sense. "Whoever gave you these was messing with you," she said, and she was still laughing, but her eyes were kind. "You passed that test completely on your own." I walked out of that classroom trying to process what just happened. I needed to find Carlos immediately because he had a lot of explaining to do. He was waiting for me and laughing outside the classroom. "I can't believe you thought gas station candy was gonna make you smart," he said. "Why did you even do that?" I asked him, and he shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Because you're smarter than you think you are," he said, "and you never would have believed me if I just told you."